I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Catherine Wicklund, and Catherine is somebody that I have known for, I want to say, like 8 years now.
I would agree with that.
So Catherine and I go way back. She is one of a very, I'm going to say, elite uh, force of Vistage chairs in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I would love to hear about your journey to Vistage and and what it means to you now to be a chair and to have this group up and running.
Wow.
We're just going to get right
Great.
into it.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I knew nothing about Vistage, and I was working in corporate, putting in long 12-hour days, working in all time zones, working weekends.
And I'm sure that
And
you were well valued for that effort.
well, definitely loved the team that I was on. And they're still an incredible team, and we're still in touch regularly. We do catch up calls. And I felt like I was not in alignment with work and life.
Hmm.
Felt like I was very much out of balance. And Vistage had been pinging me for about 3 years on LinkedIn, getting these little hits saying, looks like you bring everything to the table that we're looking for. You should apply. Hey, would you like to apply? You look like what we're looking for, right? And so, literally, Eric, in the middle of the night, in the dark one night, I pushed the application button, and I thought, well, let's just see where this goes.
Nice.
And yeah, got the phone call saying, hey, we'd like to interview you. Got through the 4 interviews and the um, style test that we have to go through. And they said, you are exactly what we're looking for at this point in time in this location. And so I took a leap of faith and jumped off the cliff, as they say, into this new realm of being a Vistage chair, having never heard of the organization at all, but being very much a leadership development junkie. And my passion and my heart are leadership development, training, um, really helping people to be the best that they can be. And um, that is what this job means to me, is really helping leaders to discover their best selves. And sometimes they knew those pieces and parts were there, and sometimes they didn't.
Right.
Um,
What was your describe, if you don't mind, the job that you were in at the point that you pressed send in the middle of the night on your Vistage application?
so I was actually an HR business partner and doing less with HR because we had an entire HR crew. We had a team that did all of the generic HR jobs, and more with operations strategy. I was the training and development manager globally for the company, as well as being an HR business partner. And so I was doing leadership development. I was doing executive coaching with people making $15 an hour all the way up to C-suite at the time, and loved that part of my job. The people piece was definitely fed me, and I knew I was making a difference with
And
the leader.
what was the part that brought you down?
So, and you know this, but I will share it, is um, as the company got smaller and smaller, my job became more HR generalist and less leadership development participant, I'd say. the job just got bigger from an HR administrative uh, definition and much less of the developing people side.
Well, and of course, there's an element also when things go in that direction, people who are not people who pride themselves on being big picture sort of people tend to not like the that detailed level of work where it's like, hey, you don't necessarily need me for this. This
Right.
is, I'm here for this, and now I'm doing that. Now, how relatable is that, do you find, to the people that you now work with in your group?
So that actually, I'm going to go step back and then step forward.
Okay.
So when many moons ago, when I worked for right now a Fortune 50 company, um, that was full of engineers, I noticed that one of the ways that companies were dedicated to promoting their people was to putting them in leadership positions, even if they were an engineer and didn't want to manage people. And so many moons ago, I made it part of my mission to really focus on leadership development and helping those that are sometimes randomly put into a managerial position to become the best leader that they can become. And how that transitions into Vistage is that we find with small to medium business leaders, business owners, CEOs, presidents, managing partners,
Right.
that very often they're very focused on making sure that their team has all the training and the development that they need to do what they need to do, but they never get that for themselves as the owner of business. Sometimes there's the number one business dev guy, right? And so being a Vistage chair allows me to offer them that development for themselves, but then also using it to develop their people.
What a neat way of phrasing that. I like that. I like that a lot. How did it work out, by the way, when you were working at a company where they would promote people into managerial positions that didn't really have interest in being manager?
Well,
How does that go?
well, so it's interesting. I was a bit of a unicorn on the team because I had so much leadership development experience when I got there. And I look at things a bit differently than others do, especially I found in the generalist area. And what would happen is the leader would say, hey, we're going to promote Joe. Um, Good luck with that. I know you're going to be a great trainer, right?
Right.
He'll learn everything he needs to know or she needs to know from you. And I would definitely work with them on that, but some of them didn't want it, Eric. And I wasn't afraid to say, look, if you're not comfortable being a leader, if you'd rather just be an engineer, let's do that, right? And no shame attached to it, right?
Right.
Because I think the other thing is they're afraid to reject the promotion because they're afraid that the company, yeah, what
Because
else
you
would
don't,
I do?
yeah, and if I let this go, when's the next opportunity going to come? It could be, for some people, I think they worry that by not taking the promotion, that they're,
If
basically saying like, this means that I'm going to have to find a new job ultimately.
Well, or it devalues the work that they've done. I mean, they see it. Like we're not pretending here, right? They see that they're being promoted as a way of rewarding them.
Right.
And so they definitely don't want to say, no, I don't want to
Well,
manage.
and I appreciate the reward. I
Yeah,
believe I've earned the reward, but does it have to be this reward? Is
pick
I
something
think
else.
that I think that it's a really common thing that a lot of us have made the mistake of putting somebody in a position and doing it with the utmost of good intentions and positive feelings about the person, but basically putting them in a situation where they're never going to be able to succeed. I think that's something that we've all done to an extent.
Oh, absolutely. And if they weren't interested, they feel less adequate to do the job because they weren't interested and they don't have the background, right? So some of my job was also helping them build the self-confidence they needed if they did want that promotion, if they did see themselves leading people, then part of my job was to help them build that self-confidence around being the leader that people wanted to follow.
Right. Very cool. Now you've got, and we're going to talk about your Vistage group in just a moment, but I want to call attention to the fact that when you say that you are well versed in many different types of leadership training and leader development, you actually have the receipts to prove that. So I'd love to I'd love to hear about the different programs that you have done and all of the different ways that you have learned to approach developing leaders from all of the places that you've picked stuff up from because it's a good list.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So I would say that my favorite leadership development organization, hands down, is Center for Creative Leadership, and that it still is not necessarily a good partner for small to medium businesses. So we'll say up to 500 million, right? Um, they are better at ranging than they used to be. They only targeted, the top CEOs across the country. They're better at offering different options for that now, but it's still, I think Vistage is a better option for business owners and presidents, CEOs of smaller businesses. John Maxwell is a certification that I decided at some point in time I wanted to get just because I really love him as a leadership guru. One of the best books that I think he's written is The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I think if you look at it now, even though it was written a while ago, it would be hard to debate those points. And it is also, it's been a top favorite of all the leaders that I've worked with. It's a gift that I love to give. So I've done John Maxwell. I've done, I'm an ICF certified coach. So I did a year of the executive coach training through an organization in Colorado that where we had class. It was basically a college class that I took for a year. And in order to graduate as an executive coach, you had to actually start your own business or you would not qualify for ICF certification. So really love that program as well. I've done impact coaching for executives that are entrepreneurs specifically, maybe one-man shows, right? I really enjoyed that completely through another spin on my coaching and how I approach the leaders that I work with. Those are
And
just a few.
and it's cool because there's a lot of obviously very different paths that people take to being a Vistage chair or being a peer group leader and yours is sort of unique from the perspective that you're probably the only Vistage chair that I know that basically became a Vistage chair because the thing that they were actually already doing and building their career on was this leadership development piece and not only doing it but being a real kind of a wonk about it. You're very you're you've done all of these things and not to say that it's obviously very valid when people come into Vistage as from the perspective that they were a former executive, from the perspective that they used to run businesses, from we've got a lot of perspectives and yours is very unique.
I think there are two of us of all the chairs worldwide, and I think there are only 1,200 chairs around the globe. So I feel really special to be included in that group, right? This has just been around 65 years. It is definitely, I think they look for the elite to chair the groups. And I feel there's only one other chair that I found that came from leadership development and executive coaching background to do this job.
It's a real testament to the different sort of experience that and I think I've heard a lot of people say different versions of, picking Vistage is only part of it. You've also got to get the right chair. And if somebody is really feeling like, oh my God, I'm not that I'm not the entrepreneur that I should be, or I'm not the executive I should be, or the business just isn't there yet, but man, I am just not the leader that I thought I was going to be. I can't think of a better chair than you to take that person on.
Thank you. And I think some of it also is that reaching that awareness that maybe they are doing a great job running the business
Right.
and it's growing too fast or it's not growing as fast as they thought it would. It isn't just me, right? It's having this what I call the Knights of the Round Table, right? So a peer group
Yep.
to gather around and between all of us, no one fails on our watch, right? And so it is you attract others who are like you. And I would like to say we have one of the coolest groups in Colorado. And in addition to that, right, all very committed to one another's success.
So let's talk about one of the coolest groups in Colorado. And one of the things that makes your group unique and that makes your the experience of being in your group unique is that a lot of your members don't actually live here.
Mm, yes, I'm at four of my members actually do not live here. They fly in for our group meetings. That's how cool we are.
That's
So
that's like an enormous kind of testament to what makes your group so different, so special. Like I've never heard of that before. I've heard of a lot of things, and I've heard of groups that still do occasional remote meetings. I've heard of groups where someone comes in out of town to go to the meeting. My chair had somebody who would come in from Wyoming, but I haven't heard of a Vistage group where a relatively large contingent was actually coming into town just for the meeting.
yes, and let's go another layer down. So three of the four actually have businesses here in Colorado, and they live elsewhere. So that's part of it, right? They've either got clients or they've got part of their businesses here in Colorado, but they've moved away since they joined my group and they keep coming back because that is the draw.
Right. No, very cool. You're what you've been able to do. I mean, that's a rare achievement to not only build but maintain that sort of group. Um, I feel compelled to ask or let you share. One of the things that I know is important to you and a big part of what makes you you. Um, and I'm sure that there's not like an accident as to how you ended up in Colorado Springs with that, but it's your commitment to our military and veterans and the work that you do there. I would really love for you to share that for just a minute if you're cool.
No, happy to share. So it's an interesting story. I'm a third generation native of Colorado, and my husband is also a native, but he graduated from the Air Force Academy. And it turned out that his background was in space. And so we did 20 years with the Air Force, lived actually in England, in LA, did a stint in Denver and here in the Springs. And I am very committed to our military and their spouses, as well as transitioning our military from their positions in the military to what they want next, whether that's
Right.
a career move into working for a brewery or if it's a career move into running their own businesses. And part of the draw of our group is that we actually have prior military members, actually have a retired general in our group, that these are now military people that are trying to translate their military experience into leading and running a company, which is also a really hard feat, right? So and because I'm a military spouse myself, I understand where they've been. I understand how their spouses think, what their spouses have done from a commitment level. and how that makes them different as a leader as well.
Yeah, and obviously the private sector is, I mean, obviously there's opportunities, but also challenges when you're coming into it from a very different cultural experience, like what going to work meant to you before, and what that entailed, and what it is now as a civilian. That's very different.
It is, and it's also unexpected. It still surprises me how the transition into this, oh, I've been in the military, I was a colonel, I can run a business. And then they get people who are actually paid to do work, but get to question whether or not they want to show up today, right? In
Right.
the military, that's not an accepted thing. And you
Right.
have to really have a mind shift
We we
around
we, we
motive.
don't get mental health days.
Right. I mean, it is an interesting, and again, the word is unexpected, right? Because they make the assumption this is the norm, right? They make the assumption that the rest of the world functions pretty similar to what they felt and saw in the military, and then they come out to the real world, and they literally are sitting around the table saying, "Okay, well, I had three people say they didn't want to work full time this week. How do I deal with this?"
Right.
Right?
Right. It's a problem that you wouldn't have even understood could be a problem.
Correct. So that's another layer of my what I bring to the table for sure. Understanding that in a way that other people can't.
Um, Catherine, this has been absolutely wonderful. If folks want to get in touch with you, what is the best way that people can find you if they have questions about Vistage, if they have questions about leadership development, how should they get in touch?
I think the best thing would be an email. So it's Catherine with a C, Catherine .Wicklund, Wicklund at vistagechair.com.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was awesome, and thank you for everything you do.
You are welcome. It was great to see you. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.